Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi proposed to the United Nations on 27th of September 2014 to adopt an International Yoga Day. He said, and I quote, "Yoga is an invaluable gift of India's ancient tradition. It embodies unity of mind and body, thought and action, restraint and fulfillment, harmony between man and nature, a holistic approach to health and well-being. It is not about exercise, but to discover the sense of oneness with yourself, the world, and the nature." After his return to New Delhi, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi wrote me a letter emphasizing the immense expectation of India's leadership in multilateral institutions, especially from the developing world. As India's ambassador to the United Nations, it was my responsibility to demonstrate this leadership. The chronology of how I led our diplomatic team at the United Nations in New York to achieve the objective was placed on the record in India's parliament by the late External Affairs Minister of India, Srimati Sushma Swaraj. In a suo motu statement on 15th of December 2014, the minister said that, and I quote, "On 11th December, an unprecedented 177 out of the total 193 member states of the United Nations joined in as co-sponsors to the resolution for International Yoga Day. In the history of the United Nations, this is the highest number of co-sponsors ever for any resolution of this nature." Co-sponsorship, quite simply, meant that these countries not only supported India, but expressed their public willingness to own the initiative as well. The list of co-sponsors was wide, all-encompassing, and a triumph of Indian diplomacy. From the permanent five to the small island states of the Pacific, from the heart of Africa to nearly the whole of Europe, from most of our South Asian neighbors to our distant friends in the Caribbean and Latin America, all in one voice stood up in our support. To me, this broad spectrum of cross-regional support signifies two things. First, it is a reflection of the pan-global appeal of India's rich cultural heritage, especially yoga. But more importantly, this outpouring of support and wholehearted embrace by the international community for the International Yoga Day signifies how India's age-old traditions are in harmony with what the world needs today. The coordinates of positions of countries represented in the United Nations General Assembly to adopt the Prime Minister of India's proposal required a thought-out strategy. The objective was to get at least 97 countries represented in the United Nations General Assembly, which represents the simple majority of the 193 member states, to become co-sponsors of a resolution to declare an International Yoga Day. The initial list of co-sponsors would act as a catalyst for other countries in supporting the adoption of the resolution. Countries of South Asia and in the ASEAN group, where yoga is a popular transgenerational activity, were of course a priority. From South Asia, only Pakistan held out against co-sponsoring the resolution, though it eventually joined the consensus decision to declare an International Yoga Day. From ASEAN, only Malaysia and Brunei did not join the list of co-sponsors. As the United Nations General Assembly was in the midst of negotiating Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, placing the proposal to declare an International Yoga Day within the framework of Sustainable Goal number 3 on good health and well-being provided an appropriate platform. Within the negotiations, the group of 77 developing countries had consolidated their position on the need to eradicate poverty as the overarching priority of any global development agenda. China was associated with the G77 in these negotiations. Getting China as a major developing country and home to millions of practicing Buddhists to become a co-sponsor of the proposal appeared to me to be critical in getting widespread support among the General Assembly and accelerating the pace for the adoption of the resolution. I called on the ambassador of China to the United Nations personally with this idea, putting it in the context of a specific outcome of his president's first official visit to India in the first half of September 2014. He consulted his government and within days received assent to sign the co-sponsorship sheet. The news that China had joined India as a co-sponsor had a major impact, with many of the 134 member states in the G77 agreeing to co-sponsor the resolution. This was followed by the co-sponsorship of traditionally significant countries like France, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America, where yoga was also widely practiced. During the General Assembly plenary discussions on the proposed resolution, attempts were made to dissuade the majority of the 56 member states belonging to the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, or the OIC, to disregard the proposal on the grounds that yoga was not in keeping with Islamic practices. However, this view was not only countered by the majority of OIC member states, but several of them became early co-sponsors of the proposed resolution. These included Indonesia, Iran, Qatar, Oman, Egypt, Turkey, Nigeria, and Senegal. Eventually, out of the 56 members of the OIC, 48 countries became co-sponsors of the resolution. On 11th December 2014, I formally tabled the resolution co-sponsored by 177 countries to declare 21st June every year as the International Day of Yoga in the United Nations General Assembly. It was unanimously adopted by acclamation without a vote. Since that auspicious day, the international community has celebrated 5 International Yoga Days so far. At the United Nations, the President of the General Assembly, Foreign Minister Kutesa of Uganda, with UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, led the celebrations on the grounds of the United Nations headquarters on the first International Yoga Day in 2015. A major impact of the International Yoga Day is the increasing numbers of ordinary individuals participating in yoga sessions on this day across the world. India marked the first International Yoga Day on 21st June 2015, in which 35,985 people participated in a single yoga session in the heart of New Delhi. The session was inaugurated by Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, who has personally led mass yoga events in India at every successive anniversary of International Yoga Day. India released commemorative postal stamps, and India's Reserve Bank released 2 commemorative coins to mark the first International Yoga Day. The second impact of the International Yoga Day is its ability to attract participation by youth from across the world. On 21st June 2016, the second International Yoga Day was held under the theme of Connect with Youth. It was celebrated in 192 countries across the world. Having been adopted under the framework of global health, the International Yoga Day has helped focus on the contribution of yoga to maintaining internal harmony and harmony between people and nature. It has also generated global interest. The theme of the third International Yoga Day on 21st June 2017 was Yoga for Wellness. An international conference on yoga was held in New Delhi, in which participants from over 80 countries exchanged views on how to make the practice of yoga a year-round activity around the world. Since 1945, when the United Nations was founded, as many as 70 million people from across the 5 continents have so far been uprooted by conflicts. The need for harmony and peace, emphasized in the declaration of the International Yoga Day, has never been greater. It was in this context that the 4th International Day of Yoga in 2018 adopted the theme Yoga for Peace. Millions of ordinary people across the world came out to practice yoga and demonstrate their belief in the importance of peace in a fragmenting world. At the 5th Yoga Day last year, the theme of Yoga for the Heart was actively discussed in the context of the commitment under Agenda 2030 to curb consumption and lead healthy lifestyles. This year, when the world is facing an unprecedented and existential crisis with the coronavirus pandemic, the theme of the 6th International Yoga Day is Yoga for Health, Yoga at Home. The International Day of Yoga marks an attempt to emphasize the relevance of international peace and harmony as the world experiences grave challenges to international peace and security. The message of India's International Yoga Day initiative will play an important role in the 75th anniversary of the United Nations in September this year, which is devoted to the theme of reaffirming support for multilateralism based on the principle of mutually beneficial international cooperation. Thank you.